Hey everyone, let's take a little trip back in time. Picture this. It's 1985. You're supposed to meet your friend at the mall at 3 o'clock. You're running late because your car has a flat tire. What do? Well, you can't just whip out your phone and send a quick text saying, "Hey, running 20 minutes late." You can't call them because, well, they're already at the mall and there's no phone in their pocket. You can't even check Google Maps to find the nearest gas station because Google doesn't exist yet. And even if it did, you don't have a computer in your car. So what do? You change the tire yourself, drive to the mall as fast as you can, and hope your friend is still waiting for you. And if they're not, well, you just go home. That's it. End of story. Sound crazy? Well, that was normal life for everyone in the 1980s. Today, we're going back to a time that seems almost impossible to imagine now. A time before cell phones, before the internet, before instant communication. We're talking about how people actually survived and stayed connected in the 1980s. If you lived through this era, get ready for a major nostalgia trip. If you didn't, buckle up because you're about to learn how your parents or grandparents managed to live their entire lives without the device that you probably can't go 5 minutes without checking. Let's dive in. Okay, so in the 1980s, if you wanted to talk to someone, you basically had one option, the telephone, but not the kind of phone you're thinking of. I'm talking about a phone that was attached to your wall with a cord. That's right, a cord. You couldn't walk around with it. You couldn't take it to your room and close the door. Well, you could try, but that cord only stretched so far. Maybe 10 feet if you were lucky. Some people had those super long coiled cords that could stretch like 25 feet, and those people thought they were living in the future. Most families had one phone, just one, and it was usually in the kitchen or the hallway, right where everyone could hear your conversation. Privacy? Yeah, that wasn't really a thing. And here's the kicker. If someone in your family was on the phone, nobody else could use it. The line was busy. End of story. You couldn't make a call. You couldn't receive a call, nothing. The phone was occupied. This led to so many family arguments. Like imagine you're a teenager and you're waiting for your crush to call. But your dad is on the phone talking to his buddy about football for 45 minutes. You're just sitting there staring at the phone, willing your dad to hang up. And every few minutes you'd walk by and give him the look. You know the look. Like, come on, I'm waiting for an important call here. And your dad would just wave you away like, I'm talking, this is important. Meanwhile, you're missing the call that could change your entire life, or at least your weekend plans. If you were really fancy, or if you had a teenager in the house who begged enough, your family might get a second phone line installed. But this wasn't cheap. The phone company had to come out and install another physical line into your house. This could cost like 50 to 100 bucks just for installation, plus another 10 or $15 every single month. For a lot of families, that just wasn't happening. So you dealt with one phone line and you learned to share. Now the phone itself. Most phones in the 1980s were rotary phones, at least in the early 80s. You know, the kind where you had to stick your finger in the little holes and turn the dial for each number. If you were calling someone with a lot of nines and zeros in their number, it took forever, like literally forever. You'd be standing there for 30 seconds just dialing the number. And if you messed up, if you accidentally dialed a 7 instead of a 9, you had to hang up and start all over again. There was no backspace button. You couldn't just fix one number. Nope. Start from the beginning. By the mid-80s, push-button phones became more common. These were like magic. You just pressed the buttons. So much faster. People were blown away by this technology. Seriously. But here's something that younger people today will never understand. You had to memorize phone numbers. Like actually memorize them. Your best friend's number, your grandma's number, your own number. You had these burned into your brain. Why? Because there was no contact list in your phone. There was no phone to have a contact list in. If you wanted to call someone, you had to know their number, or you had to look it up every single time. Some people kept a little address book by the phone with all their important numbers written down. This was basically your contact list, a literal book with names and numbers. And if you lost that book, you were in trouble. You'd have to call information, which we'll talk about in a minute. Oh, and here's another thing. Busy signals. If you called someone and they were already on the phone, you didn't get voicemail. You got a busy signal. It was this annoying beeping sound. Beep, 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 beep. That meant the line was busy and you had to try again later. So you'd hang up, wait a few minutes, and call again. Still busy. Wait a few more minutes, call again. This could go on for an hour. You'd just keep calling over and over until they finally got off the phone. There was no way to leave a message. No way to know when they'd be done. You just had to keep trying, or give up and try again tomorrow. Now, in the early 1980s, a revolutionary piece of technology started becoming popular. The answering machine. This thing was like science fiction. You could leave your house, and if someone called, the machine would answer for you and record their message. When you got home, you could play back the messages and hear what people wanted. Mind-blowing. The first answering machines were these big clunky boxes that sat next to your phone. They used actual cassette tapes. One tape for your outgoing message, another tape for incoming messages. You'd record your outgoing message, and this was a big deal. People took this seriously. Some people tried to be funny. Hey, you've reached the Smith family. We're not home, or we're home, but we're ignoring you. Leave a message at the beep, and maybe we'll call you back. Some people were very formal. You have reached 555-2368. We are unable to come to the phone at this time. Please leave your name, number, and a brief message after the tone, and we will return your call at our earliest convenience. And some people put music in the background, like they'd hold a radio up to the phone while recording their message so it had this cool soundtrack. Very high-tech stuff. The tapes could hold maybe 15 to 20 minutes of messages total. And when the tape was full, that was it. New callers couldn't leave a message. The machine was full. You had to go home and listen to your messages to free up space. Coming home and seeing that little red light blinking on your answering machine was exciting. You had messages. Someone called you. You'd press play and stand there listening to find out who called. Hey, it's Mike. Just calling to see if you want to go to the movies tonight. Give me a call back. And then you'd have to call Mike back. But wait, you don't remember Mike's number, so you'd have to look it up in the phone book. Which brings us to, every year the phone company would deliver a phone book to your house. Actually, it was usually two books, the white pages and the yellow pages. The white pages listed every single person and business in your area, alphabetically by last name. Every single person. If you had a phone, you were in the book. Your name, your address, your phone number, all printed in tiny text on thin paper. Now you might be thinking, wait, everyone's address and phone number was just published in a book that anyone could see? Yes. Yes, it was. Privacy was different back then. If you wanted to call your friend Sarah Johnson, you'd pull out the white pages, flip to the J section, and look for Johnson. But here's the problem. Johnson is a super common name. There might be 50 Johnsons in the book. You'd have to scan through all of them looking for Sarah or looking for her parents' names. And if you didn't know how to spell her last name exactly, you were in trouble. Was it Johnson or Johnson? Johnston? You'd have to check multiple spellings. The yellow pages were for businesses. This was organized by type of business. Need a plumber? Look under P for plumbing. Need a pizza place? Look under P for pizza or R for restaurants. Every business paid to be listed in the yellow pages, and some paid extra for bigger ads. You'd flip through and see huge colorful ads taking up half a page, then tiny listings in small print. These books were massive. The yellow pages for a big city could be like 3 inches thick and weigh several pounds. But you kept it by your phone because you needed it constantly. Oh, and if you moved to a new city, you had to get a new phone book because each area had its own book. So if you were calling someone in another city, you couldn't just look them up. You'd have to call directory assistance. Directory assistance, or information as people called it, was a service where you called a special number, 411, and an actual human operator would look up phone numbers for you. You'd call and say, "Hi, I need the number for John Smith on Maple Street in Springfield." And the operator would look it up and tell you the number. And you'd better write it down fast because they didn't repeat it slowly. They'd say it once, and that was it. Oh, and this service wasn't free. It cost like 50 cents or $1 each time you called. So people avoided calling 411 unless they really needed to. Okay, so now that you understand the phone situation, Let's talk about how people actually made plans. These days, making plans is easy. Hey, want to meet up? Sure, where? How about Starbucks at 3? Okay, see you there. And if something changes, you just text. Running late. Okay, no problem. In the 1980s, making plans required actual planning. Let's say you and your friends want to go see a movie on Friday night. First, you have to call your friends. You call John. He's home. Great. He wants to go. You call Mike. No answer. You'll try again later. You call Sarah. Her mom answers. She's not home. She went to the store. Okay, you'll try again later. An hour later, you try Mike again. Still no answer. You try Sarah. She's home now. Great, she wants to go. Now you have to call Mike again. Finally, he answers. Yes, he wants to go. Now you have to decide what movie, what time, which theater. This is crucial because once you leave your house, you can't change the plan. Everyone has to agree right now on the phone. Okay, let's see Back to the Future at the cinema on Main Street, 7:30 show, meet in the lobby at 7:15. Everyone agrees the plan is set. Now you have to stick to this plan. You can't be late. Well, you can be late, but if you are, everyone else is just going to be standing there wondering where you are. They can't call you. They can't text you. They just have to wait and hope you show up. And if you don't show up, they might wait 15 minutes, maybe 30 minutes if they're really patient. But eventually they're going to assume you're not coming and they'll go into the movie without you. Or they might give up and go home, and you'll never know what happened until you talk to them next time. This actually happened all the time. Miscommunication was just part of life. You'd show up at the wrong place or the wrong time, or your friend thought you said Saturday but you said Sunday, and you'd just miss each other completely. And then on Monday at school or work, you'd see them and be like, dude, where were you? And they'd be like, where were you? I was there. And you'd figure out that you went to different theaters or something. Okay, so what if you're out and you need to make a call? What if your car breaks down? What if you're meeting someone and you're going to be late? You found a payphone. Payphones were everywhere in the 1980s, and I mean everywhere. Gas stations, shopping malls, street corners, outside restaurants, inside restaurants, at rest stops on the highway, in hotel lobbies, at airports. Everywhere. These were public telephones in little booths or just mounted on a pole. You'd pick up the receiver, drop in a quarter, and you could make a local call. A quarter, that was the price. 25 cents for a local call. So people always kept quarters in their car, in their pocket, in their purse. Because you never knew when you might need to make a call. If you didn't have a quarter, you were out of luck. Some payphones had a coin return slot where you could check for forgotten change. People would actually go around checking payphones for quarters. Sometimes you'd get lucky and find one. The phone booth itself was this little enclosed area with a door. The idea was to give you some privacy and block out noise. But by the 1980s, a lot of these doors were broken or missing. So you'd be standing on a busy street corner trying to have a conversation while cars drove by and people walked past. And the phones themselves were pretty gross. Like, think about it. Thousands of people using the same phone, putting their face up against the same receiver. Nobody cleaned these things. They were sticky and dirty, and sometimes they smelled weird. But you used them anyway because you had no choice. Now, making a long-distance call from a payphone was a whole different thing. Long-distance calls were expensive, like really expensive. If you were calling someone in another state, you couldn't just drop in a quarter. You had to pump in multiple quarters, and every few minutes an operator would come on and say, please deposit another 75 cents for the next 3 minutes. And you'd be frantically shoving quarters into the slot while trying to finish your conversation. Or you could make a collect call. This was where you called the operator and said, I want to make a collect call to this number. The operator would call that number and say, I have a collect call from your name. Will you accept the charges? If the person said yes, they would be charged for the call. If they said no, too bad, no call for you. Now, people figured out a trick with collect calls. When the operator asked for your name, you could say anything. So people would say their message really fast as their name. Hi, I have a collect call from Bob. Pick me up at the mall. I'm done shopping. Will you accept the charges? And the person would hear the message and say, no, I don't accept. Because they got the message, so they didn't need to pay for the call. The phone company hated this, but everyone did it anyway. Speaking of long distance, let's talk about how expensive it was to call someone far away. In the 1980s, if you wanted to call someone in another state, or even just in another area code, it was considered long distance, and you got charged extra. A lot extra. A long distance call could cost anywhere from 50 cents to $1 per minute. Per minute. And that's 1980s money, so adjust for inflation, and it's even more expensive. So if you had grandma living in another state and you wanted to call her for a nice long chat, you had to watch the clock, because a 20-minute call could cost you 20 bucks. That was a lot of money back then. Phone bills were crazy. The phone company would send you an itemized bill every month showing every call you made, how long it lasted, and how much it cost. Parents would look at this bill and see that someone made a 2-hour call to California, and they'd lose their minds. Who called California for 2 hours? This call cost $60, and whichever kid was responsible for that call was in big trouble. To save money, people would do a few things. First, they'd keep calls short. You'd call grandma, chat for exactly 5 minutes, and then say, okay, gotta go, love you, bye, because every extra minute was costing money. Second, people would call at certain times. Long-distance rates were cheaper at night and on weekends, so you'd wait until after 11 p.m. or until Sunday to make your long-distance calls. The phone company literally had different rates for different times of day. Peak hours, like weekday afternoons, were the most expensive. Evenings were cheaper. Late night and weekends were the cheapest. So families would plan their long-distance calls like they were planning a military operation. Okay, we'll call Aunt Betty on Sunday afternoon when the rates are low. Now let's talk about emergencies, because this is where not having a cell phone got really serious. Imagine you're driving on a highway in 1985. It's late at night. Your car breaks down. What do? Well, first you pull over to the side of the road. Then you get out and pop the hood, hoping you can figure out what's wrong. Maybe it's something simple like a loose battery cable, but probably not. Probably it's something you can't fix yourself. So now what? You need to call for help, but you're on a highway, there's no phone. Your options are: 1. Walk along the highway until you find an exit with a gas station that has a payphone. This could be miles away. 2. Try to flag down another car and ask them for help. 3. Wait and hope a police officer drives by. Option 1 meant walking along a dark highway at night, which was dangerous. Cars flying by at 70 miles per hour, only a few feet away from you. Not fun. Option 2 meant standing by your car with the hood up, waving at passing cars, hoping someone would stop. This was actually pretty common back then. People stopped to help each other a lot more than they do now. But it was still risky. You're trusting a stranger. Option 3 meant just sitting in your car and waiting. Could be 10 minutes. Could be 2 hours. You had no idea. Eventually, you'd get help somehow. You'd find a phone, call a tow truck, and wait for them to show up. But the whole process could take hours. And the tow truck company couldn't call you to tell you they were running late because you didn't have a phone. You just had to sit there and wait. Now, for real emergencies, like if someone was hurt, it was even scarier. Let's say someone has a heart attack at home. You call 911, the ambulance comes, everything's fine. But what if someone has a heart attack while hiking in the woods, or at a park, or somewhere away from a phone? You'd have to leave them there, run to find a phone, call 911, then run back, or send someone else to find a phone while you stay with the person. It was terrifying. This is why losing someone in a crowd was such a big deal. If you went to a fair or an amusement park with your family, parents would drill it into their kids. If we get separated, meet back at the entrance. Do not wander off. Because if a kid got lost, there was no calling their cell phone. You just had to search for them and hope they remembered the meeting spot. All right, let's talk about dating in the 1980s, because this was a whole different world. First, asking someone out. Let's say you met a girl or a guy and you wanted to ask them out. You'd exchange phone numbers. except you couldn't just save it in your phone because you didn't have a phone. You had to write it down on a piece of paper. And you'd better not lose that piece of paper. Lose the paper, lose the number. No way to get it back unless you saw them again and asked for it again, which was embarrassing. So you'd get home and you'd have to call them. But here's the thing, you might not get them on the phone. You might get their parents, or their roommate, or their little brother. So you'd call and someone else would answer. Hello? Hi, is Sarah there? Who's calling? This is Mike. Hold on. And then you'd hear them yell through the house, Sarah, phone, it's some guy named Mike. And you'd be standing there with the phone, sweating, hoping Sarah remembered who you were, and hoping her dad wasn't standing right there listening to the whole conversation. Then Sarah would get on the phone. Hello? Hey, Sarah, it's Mike. We met at the party on Friday? Oh, yeah, hi. And you'd chat for a bit, and eventually you'd ask her out. But you had to be smooth about it because her whole family might be listening from the next room. If she said yes, you'd make plans. Specific plans. Friday night, 7 p.m., I'll pick you up at your house. What movie? Where are we going to dinner? Everything had to be decided right then because you couldn't text her later to change plans. Now, on the actual date, there was no checking your phone. You had to actually talk to each other the whole time. Awkward silences were really awkward because you couldn't just pull out your phone and scroll through Instagram. If the date went well and you wanted to see her again, you had to call her again. But not too soon because you didn't want to seem desperate. And not too late because she might think you're not interested. There was this whole unwritten rule about waiting 3 days before calling. And when you did call, you might get her dad again. Hi, Mr. Johnson, it's Mike. Is Sarah home? And her dad would interrogate you. Mike, huh? What are your intentions with my daughter? Dating was an adventure. Now, in the late 1980s, a new technology started showing up. Pagers, or beepers, as some people called them. A pager was a small device, about the size of a deck of cards that you clipped to your belt. When someone needed to reach you, they'd call your pager number and the pager would beep. A little screen would show a phone number. That was it, just a phone number, no message, no text, just a number. So you'd look at the number and then you'd have to find a phone and call them back. At first, pagers were mostly for doctors and business people who needed to be reachable at all times. If you were on call, you carried a pager. When it beeped, you found a phone and called the hospital or your office. But then drug dealers started using them, which kind of gave pagers a bad reputation. In movies and TV shows, if someone had a pager, they were either a doctor or a criminal. By the early 1990s, regular people started getting pagers too. Teenagers loved them. It made them feel important. Your pager would beep in the middle of class, and everyone would look at you like you were some kind of big shot. People came up with codes using the numbers. Like if someone paged you 143, that meant I love you. 1 letter, 4 letters, 3 letters. 911 meant it was an emergency. 07734 meant, well, turn it upside down and it spells hello. People got creative with these number codes, whole conversations in numbers, but you still had to find a phone to call back. So pagers didn't really solve the problem. They just let you know someone was trying to reach you. You still had to hunt for a payphone. So when did all this change? The first cell phones came out in the 1980s, but they were ridiculous. The Motorola Dynatac, released in 1984, cost almost $4,000. $4,000. That's like $10,000 in today's money. And it was huge. People called it the brick because it literally looked like a brick. It was 10 inches long and weighed 2 pounds. The battery lasted about 30 minutes of talk time, and it took 10 hours to recharge. Only super wealthy business people had these. And even they didn't use them much because they were so awkward and expensive. Through the 1990s, cell phones got smaller and cheaper. Motorola came out with the flip phone. Nokia came out with those indestructible phones that you could drop off a building and they'd still work. But cell phones were still mainly for business. Plans were expensive. You paid for every minute you used, like $1 per minute or more. So people only used them for important calls. It wasn't until the late 1990s and early 2000s that cell phones became normal for regular people. Plans got cheaper, phones got better, and then text messaging was introduced. which changed everything again. And then in 2007, Apple released the iPhone. And suddenly, a phone wasn't just a phone anymore. It was a camera, a computer, a GPS, a music player, a game console, and a connection to the entire internet. Within a few years, everyone had a smartphone. Payphones disappeared. Phone books disappeared. The whole world changed. So that's what life was like before cell phones. It's hard to believe now, but this was normal for everyone. Your parents lived this way. Your grandparents lived this way. Making plans required actual planning. Being late meant people would just have to wait. Getting lost meant pulling out a paper map. Emergencies were actually scary because you couldn't just call for help from anywhere. But you know what? People managed just fine. They were more patient. They planned better. They were more present in the moment because they weren't constantly checking their phones. Was it better? I don't know. It was different. There were definitely things that were harder, but there were also things that were simpler. These days, we can talk to anyone, anywhere, anytime. We have all the information in the world in our pockets. We never get lost. We never miss a call, but we also never disconnect. We're always reachable, always online, always distracted. The 1980s were a time when people actually had to talk to each other face to face, when kids played outside until the streetlights came on because their parents couldn't call them home, when dating meant actually spending time together instead of texting all day. I'm not saying we should go back to those days. Cell phones are incredibly useful, and they've made life easier in so many ways. But it's worth remembering what life was like before them. It's worth appreciating how much has changed in just 30 or 40 years. If you lived through the 1980s, I hope this brought back some memories. Maybe you remembered the phone in your kitchen with the super long cord. Maybe you remembered waiting for someone to get off the phone so you could make a call. Maybe you remembered the time you got lost at the mall and had to have the security guard page your parents over the loudspeaker. If you didn't live through it, well, now you know. Now you understand what your parents mean when they say, "Back in my day, we didn't have cell phones." So next time you're about to complain because your phone battery is at 10% or because you don't have a signal, remember? There was a time when nobody had a phone in their pocket at all, and somehow we all survived. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, please give this video a like and subscribe for more stories about how life used to be. Leave a comment and tell me, what do you miss most about the pre-cell phone era? Or what are you most glad we don't have to deal with anymore? Next time, we're going to talk about what it was like when TV only had 3 channels and you had to get up and walk across the room to change the channel. No remote control. Sounds crazy, right? That's coming up next. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video.